Michel de Nostradamus, known to the world as Nostradamus, was a French astrologer and physician who lived in the 16th century. His book, Les Prophéties, published in 1555, has remained a source of fascination and debate for nearly 500 years. This collection of 942 poetic quatrains seems to predict future events, from wars and plagues to the rise and fall of empires. People are drawn to his work because it offers a sense of order in a chaotic world. The idea that someone centuries ago could see our present time is a powerful and compelling thought that captures the human imagination. His name alone evokes images of a bearded seer poring over ancient texts by candlelight, charting the destiny of humanity. The allure of Nostradamus lies in the mysterious nature of his writings. He did not write in plain language. Instead, he used a mix of French, Latin, Greek, and Occitan, filled with anagrams, metaphors, and allegorical references. This cryptic style forces readers to become detectives, searching for clues within his verses. This ambiguity is precisely why his prophecies have endured for so long. They are not rigid predictions with specific dates, but rather fluid visions that can be applied to many different situations across history. This has allowed each generation to find its own meaning within his words, seeing reflections of their own crises and triumphs in his ancient poetry. Over the centuries, interpreters have linked Nostradamus' quatrains to major historical events. They claim he foresaw the French Revolution, the rise of Napoleon Bonaparte, and even the terrifying ascent of Adolf Hitler, whom he allegedly referred to as Hister. Believers point to these supposed hits as proof of his incredible foresight, arguing that the patterns are too specific to be mere coincidence. The prophecies act as a historical tapestry, woven with threads of the past, present, and future. Whether these connections are real or imagined, they have cemented Nostradamus' reputation as the world's most famous prophet, a figure whose shadow looms large over our collective consciousness. This enduring legacy raises profound questions about fate and free will. If the future can be seen, does that mean our path is already set in stone? Or are his prophecies merely warnings, glimpses of possible futures that we have the power to change? The search for answers keeps people returning to his work, especially during times of great uncertainty and social upheaval. When the world feels like it is on the brink of major change, many turn to the wisdom of the past for guidance. Nostradamus provides a framework for understanding the present, even if that framework is built on mystery and speculation. For the year 2024, interpreters of Nostradamus painted a dramatic and often frightening picture of global events. One of the most prominent predictions centered on a major naval conflict ignited by a red adversary in the Great Ocean. This was widely interpreted as a potential war in the Pacific, likely involving China. Commentators pointed to rising geopolitical tensions as evidence that this prophecy was on the verge of fulfillment. While the year did see continued friction, including a notable meeting between Russia's Vladimir Putin and North Korea's Kim Jong-un, the large-scale naval war that was anticipated never actually happened. The great oceans remained, for the most part, at peace. Another significant prophecy for 2024 concerned the British monarchy. One quatrain spoke of a king of the islands being driven out by force, leading to widespread speculation about King Charles III. Interpretations suggested he might abdicate his throne due to poor health or public pressure, with some even floating the unlikely idea of Prince Harry taking his place. While King Charles did face a public health battle with a cancer diagnosis, he continued his royal duties with resilience. The predicted crisis that would shake the foundations of the monarchy did not materialize, and the line of succession remained stable and unchanged throughout the year. The Vatican was also placed under the prophetic microscope. Nostradamus wrote of the death of a very old pontiff, to be followed by the election of a controversial new Roman pope. With Pope Francis approaching his 88th birthday and managing various health issues, many believed 2024 would be the year this prophecy came to pass. The world watched closely, but Pope Francis continued to lead the Catholic Church, making public appearances and guiding his flock. The predicted papal succession and the turmoil it was supposed to bring remained a subject for future speculation rather than a historical event of 2024. Finally, there were dire warnings about the climate. A famous verse stated, "The dry earth will grow more parched, and there will be great floods when it is seen." this was easily linked to the ongoing reality of climate change, with its cycles of extreme drought and devastating floods. While 2024 certainly experienced its share of extreme weather events around the globe, there was no single unprecedented cataclysm that stood out as the definitive fulfillment of this prophecy. The prediction was so general that it could apply to almost any year in our current climate era, making it both perpetually relevant and impossible to prove as a specific, dated forecast. The primary reason Nostradamus' prophecies remain so compelling is their profound ambiguity. His quatrains are not straightforward newspaper headlines of the future. They are complex symbolic poems that act like Rorschach tests for the human psyche. An interpreter sees what they are primed to see, influenced by their own fears, hopes, and knowledge of current events. The phrase red adversary can be interpreted as China, Russia, or even a political movement within a country. This flexibility allows the prophecies to be molded to fit almost any scenario, which is a key reason for their longevity and perceived relevance in any era. This process of interpretation often involves what is known as retrofitting or hindsight bias. When a major event occurs, people comb through the 942 quatrains, searching for any verse that could, with some creative thinking, be made to fit the facts. For example, after the September 11th attacks, a verse mentioning 2 steel birds falling from the sky in the new city gained immense popularity, despite historical scholars pointing out its likely reference to something else entirely. This practice makes the prophecies seem far more accurate than they might actually be, as the successes are amplified while the countless misses and vague verses are quietly ignored or forgotten. Furthermore, the language used by Nostradamus is intentionally vague and symbolic. He speaks of beasts, great fires, floods, and falling stars, images that are universal and timeless in their power to evoke fear and awe. A great plague could refer to a literal disease, like the ones now predicted for England in 2025, or it could be a metaphor for social decay, economic collapse, or a wave of violence. This symbolic language opens a vast space for interpretation, allowing each reader to project their own contemporary anxieties onto the ancient text, thereby making it personally and culturally resonant. The role of the interpreter, therefore, is not just to translate, but to create meaning. They act as a bridge between the 16th century text and 21st century anxieties. Different analysts, like myself, can look at the very same quatrain and arrive at completely different conclusions about what it means for the coming year. This subjectivity is not a flaw in the process, it is the engine that keeps the prophecies alive. The debate and discussion over their meaning are what fuel public interest and ensure that Nostradamus' name will continue to be invoked whenever humanity faces an uncertain future. As we look ahead to 2025, a new set of interpretations is already taking shape, drawn from the same cryptic wellspring. Predictions now point to the end of a major war, perhaps the conflict in Ukraine, mediated by European powers. They warn of a devastating plague and war striking England, and of a massive asteroid threatening the Earth. Brazil, the garden of the world, is said to face catastrophic natural disasters. Are these genuine glimpses into the year ahead? Or are they simply a projection of our current global anxieties about war, disease, and climate change? The answer remains elusive, locked within the poetic ambiguity of the quatrains. The influence of these prophecies on the public psyche cannot be underestimated. In an age of information overload and constant crisis, the idea of a pre-written future can be strangely comforting for some, while deeply unsettling for others. The predictions provide narratives, simple, powerful stories about conflict and resolution that help people make sense of a complex and often frightening world. They become part of our cultural conversation, shaping media headlines and influencing how some people perceive global events, regardless of whether the prophecies themselves hold any objective truth. They function as a modern mythology. Ultimately, we must question what we are truly looking for when we consult Nostradamus. Are we seeking factual predictions about the future, or are we seeking a mirror that reflects our own present-day fears and hopes? The prophecies are so masterfully vague that they serve this second purpose perfectly. They validate our concerns by showing us that our anxieties are significant enough to have been seen centuries ago. The prophecies may be less about predicting the future and more about understanding the emotional landscape of the present moment and our eternal human desire to know what comes next. So, are Nostradamus' prophecies happening now? Perhaps the better question is, what does our belief in them say about us? The enduring power of his work may lie not in its accuracy, but in its ability to force us to confront our own relationship with the future. Do we see a world careening towards disaster, as some interpretations suggest? Or do we see warnings that give us an opportunity to choose a different path? The verses remain silent on this, leaving the final and most important interpretation up to us, the inhabitants of the very future he sought to describe.